And this is the limitation for today's class. Rest of the regulation phases will be discussed tomorrow. We'll stick with the components first. Getting into components, from where it is secreted, because pancreas is having two differently identified tissues is by histology and by functionality. So you can see on the periphery, we have acinar cells. In the center, like island, we have islets of Langerhans, which includes alpha, beta, delta cells. But what we are discussing so in today's classes, pancreatic acinar. This is one acinus surrounded by acinar cells which secrete the exocrine component or the enzyme part. This is one. And in between you can see blood vessels, including RBC are also shown. This is one more blood vessel. Red blood cells in the blood vessel. This is one more. So these blood vessels are very close, both for acinar cells as well as for islets of Langerhans, because of the control and functionality over them. That we are going to see a little bit. And the endocrines also. Because acinar cells, of course, they are secreting their contents into central tubule or so. That will ultimately lead to the second part of deodorant. Whereas the islets of Langerhans, they are going to release their contents into blood directly. That is the reason why insulin and others are called as hormones. And this picture shows the difference between the two zones of pancreas, endocrine and exocrine zone. So ultimately, all these ductules will join to form ducts and pancreatic duct that will combine with the bile duct on the other side. Then both join together and open through a common opening into second part of the duodenum papilla of water. To the middle, in the C shape of the duodenum, second part, we have papilla of water, which is guarded by smooth muscle sphincter or a regulator to release bile or pancreatic juice is sphincter. This sphincter is called a sphincter of Oddi. So the sphincter of Oddi must be released, must be relaxed, either to release bile or to release pancreatic juice. Now we'll move to the components. What is the major component of pancreatic juice? You can type. Yeah, water, very good. 146, 174. Many other students, 150. So how much it is? When compared to 1.5 liter a day of gastric juice, this is only around 1 liter per day throughout the day. That is not in single shot. pH as it must be more than 7.4. We call it as alkaline in the body, in the medium. It is 8 and above, 8 to 8.3. Composition, that is what we have already covered, water and solids. In the solids, organic, organic, the list is very much big here when compared to gastric juice. In the gastric juice, we have mucus, pepsinose, and in that case, in gastric juice, intrinsic factor and so on. But here the list is big. So we classify those lists into subgroups so that to remember better. So here you can see it is so strong digestive juice when compared to gastric juice. It will almost complete the digestion in the duodenum and small intestine. For example, let us see in that video, you can take that small piece can be a chicken piece. Once you put into the pancreatic juice, that will be digested and that much fast. But it will do that much effectively. It's a stronger digestive component. Then if you take up the list of enzymes, first we'll start with the proteolytic enzymes. Number one is always trypsinogen. One is trypsinogen. Number two is chymotrypsinogen. Number three is carboxypeptidase. All are concerned with the protein digestion, but you need to elaborate in the description what exactly is doing. You can correlate something from biochemistry also. You have to detail it to that extent that what is the difference between trypsinogen and action of chymotrypsin and carboxypeptidase. How far they are ultimately going for digestion of proteins, to that extent that ultimately each amino acid is separated. Okay, then we have a bit different nucleases. What do you mean by nucleases? What is the function of these hormones? Okay, there are two categories here. It's one. What are the two categories under nucleases and what is their function? Ribonuclease. You're correct. So, to get this list, you need to imagine that today you're going to take meat, that can be from chicken or mutton. You have taken a piece of meat. Piece of meat means what is this tissue exactly? Meat, chicken or mutton. What is the chemical composition of this piece? What does it refer to the tissue? Protein, very good. Protein means what protein exactly? In the muscle? Protein, what is there in the protein? Muscle protein. What is muscle contraction? Can you recollect? What are those proteins which are forming sliding filament theory and all? Actin and myosin, very good. Very number 82. So, ultimately, protein is, for example, this is one muscle cell. Let's take this is one muscle cell. Within that, we have actin myosin organized into striated arrangement. So, basically, it is a muscle cell containing proteins. Cell means it is not exclusively protein. It also contains DNA. At one part, you can see the nucleus also. One side of the cell. Nucleus must be digested. So that we have nuclease, ribonuclease and deoxyribonuclease. In the same way, if you take the same muscle tissue, it contains elastic tissue as well as collagen also. That is what some students have mentioned. To digest the elastin fiber which is in the tissue, this is the muscle tissue, we need the enzyme elastase. In the same way, it is also made up of collagen. A bit of collagen is also there in the muscle tissue from the lower animal. To digest that part, we have collagenase. Okay. Then if you take independent cell, muscle cell membrane is formed by, what are the major components of cell membrane? Can you mention 1, 2, 3? What are the major components of cell membrane? So far we have completed the list of trypsinogen, chymotrypsin, carboxypeptidase, proteolytic enzymes, then nucleases, elastases, collagens. And what are the major components of cell membrane? Phospholipids and cholesterol. Lipids. So that we need to digest the cell membrane of the tissue, that is chicken or mutton, which contains muscle tissue of the animal. Then we need to have this list also. To digest the lipid part, we need to have lipase as well as co-lipase. And we need to get into the details of biochemistry of each enzyme and the end product also. So that will make you the list complete. Then, as you said, phospholipids and cholesterol is a part of cell membrane. So, to digest phospholipids, phospholipase A and phospholipase B, so that the cell membrane phospholipids are digested to that extent. So, every part of the cell is digested because the protein tissue is muscle tissue. Muscle cell contains cell membrane. Cell membrane contains phospholipids as well as cholesterol. To digest the cholesterol part, we have cholesterol ester hydrolase. This is the third part, I think so. So that we can effectively digest every part of your chicken piece or mutton piece. It contains a muscle tissue of that animal or the bird that includes all these components. Okay, so to digest all these things, we need to recollect the organization of the cell, the organization of muscle tissue, so that every component to be digested, that means we need to have a respective enzyme to digest that component. If you can recollect in that way, you can easily list out all these things. Then amylase, what is amylase? How do you classify this enzyme? Pancreatic amylase. Yes, somebody can type amylase. What is the role of amylase? So that when we are listing out something in the juice, you are also explaining the function at the same time or subsequently, so that you will get that component and functions mark. Carbohydrate digestion. So this carbohydrate digestion part is known as amylolytic enzymes. Proteolytic, lipolytic, amylolytic. Amylolytic means which will digest the carbohydrate, ultimately release that. Then in the inorganic components, the bicarbonate is the number one. Remaining things are very few. Potassium, calcium, sodium, chloride, phosphate. These things in minimal concentrations. But bicarbonate concentration, you can see this is around 110 to 150 milligrams per liter in the pancreatic juice. How many times it is higher when compared to blood concentration? Somebody can calculate from your memories and mathematics. Yes, roughly 4 or 5 times. Correct. To have that calculation, you need to have the memory of normal concentration of bicarbonate in the blood or extracellular fluids, which is key component when you are analyzing acid-base analysis or when you are analyzing electrolyte analysis in the final MBBS or as a physician of any kind. So that the sodium, potassium, chloride, bicarbonate levels in ECF you must remember for all the time. And this is roughly 4 to 5 times of the TCA per blood. Then what is the other component? Which was not covered so far? Somebody can type here. We have listed around 9 or 10 substances so far, but one more important component is there in the pancreatic juice. Important. Yeah, very good. Trypsin inhibitor. Somebody can explain the role of trypsin inhibitor? Somebody can. What is the role of trypsin inhibitor? What it is? So as rule number 31 says, if accidentally trypsinogen is activated into trypsin in the pancreas itself, actually it must be activated in the duodenum or in the small intestine with the help of what is the enzyme that will activate trypsinogen to trypsin? Somebody can type here. Okay, the tartrazation part is correct. Yeah, 146. And other students, enterokinase or enteropeptidase is present in the small intestine, that will activate. But rarely, very rarely, because of some situations and pathological factors, this trypsin is activated within the pancreas before it is secreted. Once it is released, it will have no discrimination between protein of yours and protein of somebody, protein from chicken, protein from mutton. It will digest everything in the. Once the trypsin is activated into trypsinogen is activated into trypsin, it will activate other proteolytic enzymes. Everything will become like an explosion. So that explosive digestion, that has to be intended to take place in the duodenum or the small intestine will take place within the pancreas. So it will digest the pancreatic tissue as a whole. That means pancreas will disappear. Automatically, entire pancreas will be digested very fast because of this strength of the digestion. So that is what is trypsin inhibitor. Now, my question is, trypsin inhibitor is always successful in inhibiting trypsin as long as trypsinogen is in the pancreas. Only it will be activated after it's released into duodenum or small intestine. Now, my point is, what are the situations, conditions, factors that make the trypsin inhibitor inactive and trypsin will become active in the pancreas itself? What are the situations? What will cause the activity? Activity means, of course, when the partially digested pancreatic tissue, it will be in inflammation. It will result in acute pancreatitis. My question is, what is the cause for acute pancreatitis? That is automatically their acute pancreatitis. Yes, alcohol. Any other cause? Yes, we deal with your correct. Blockage of duct by gallstones, because it is a common duct for both pancreas and the bile. If it is blocked by cholelithiasis, gallstones, and this blockade will unnecessarily activate the trypsinogen to trypsin within the pancreas. That is one possibility. Any other possibility other than alcohol and blockage? What do you understand by this video? Actually, this is what is the trypsin has to be released on the other side of the tissue, that is within our boundary, that is pancreas. Opposite our boundary, small intestine or duodenum. That should be released into the small intestine. If it is accidentally thrown by a wrong side, it is activated within your boundary, then it will cause a lot of damage to your boundary, that is pancreas. I think you got this animation played in your side of the screen. If you mishandle this trypsin, after removing the pin, safety pin of the grenade, safety pin is like a trypsin inhibitor. Once the safety pin is removed from the grenade, you have seen many movies, that will become activated. If you hold it like that way, you can see the consequences. So these are the possibilities of causes you can see. Acute pancreatitis is the outcome. This can be due to damage, this can be due to a blunt injury, this can be due to any damage to the pancreas, or blockage by gallstones, or alcohol. Alcohol is the most common cause. After that is blockage. Cholelithiasis is the most common cause of acute pancreatitis. It is an emergency situation. You have to attend the possibility, because it may cause hyperglycemia as well as circulatory shock. Because of the inflammatory situations, inflammatory mediators which are released into the blood may cause circulatory shock also. It is dangerous if it is not handled in emergency situation. And one more thing is, because the pancreas is digested, the pancreas means the pancreatic acinar cells are out by number, so that they can't release the exocrine component next day onwards. That means the enzymatic digestion will be deficient in that individual, so that lifetime pancreatic insufficiency will be there. Every day we need to support orally by supplementing with the enzymes. So we have a good number of brands and drugs which will support the pancreatic enzymes. At the same time, because it will also digest islets of Langerhans along with the SNR cells, the patient will end up in hyperglycemia and diabetes-like situation, and diabetes also. That is the story all around about trypsin inhibitor, pancreatitis, blockage, alcohol damage, and it is dangerous and it may lead to death because of the circulatory shock as well as the diabetes mellitus, which is resulting from the pancreatic autodigestion. So this is like mishandling a grenade. Trypsin inhibitor can be compared with the safety pin of the grenade. Now, like what I have seen, HCl secretion mechanism and steps in gastric juice. Here in pancreatic juice, when you are attempting it, the question, we need to have a diagram that how the pancreas is producing bicarbonate. Now my question to you is, in the pancreas, the two components, one component is enzymatic component, which includes all the enzymes. Other component is bicarbonate solution, bicarbonate and water. The enzyme part of the pancreatic juice is released by the acinar cells of the pancreas, the exocrine part. What about the bicarbonate part? What is the exact cell that secretes bicarbonate part of the pancreatic juice? Can you name the anatomical part of the pancreas that secretes bicarbonate and water? Yes, it is not simply epithelial cells, it is ductal epithelium cell. That means we have two components. The water and bicarbonate is not by acinar cells. It is actually by ductal epithelial cells or ductal cells. That you need to remember, because we have different in the methods of stimulation of these cells. Some agents will stimulate acinar cells to produce more enzymes. Some agents will stimulate only the ductal cells to produce bicarbonate, as and when it is required as per the needs of the situation. Now you can see, now we are discussing the mechanism of bicarbonate secretion from the ductal cell. That is the point I made it. Like the parietal cell which is secreting HCl in the gastric lining glands, it is one ductal cell and one more ductular epithelial cell. This is one they are attached epithelium. Now the point here it is, I will explain step by step. Always start with the convenient step, that is with the combination of carbon dioxide with H2O, that is water, in the presence of carbonic anhydrous enzyme, that is the catalytic agent here. So that we will start with number one, that is carbon dioxide is entering from the blood, or that is present as a metabolic end product in the ductal epithelial cells, that will combine with H2O in the presence of carbonic anhydrous to form, number 3 is important, bicarbonate and H+. The difference here is the ductal epithelial cell is making the bicarbonate into lumen and H+ into blood. That is exactly opposite to the parietal cell. So the fourth one, you can see active transport of bicarbonate into the lumen, because bicarbonate is electrical polarity negative. It will attract sodium to form sodium bicarbonate. Sodium enters by dotted arrow means, dashed arrow means, that is by diffusion. Then fifth one, on the opposite side, we have sodium H+ bound to transport or secondary active transport, where H+ is pumped out, which is released by the action of carbonic anhydrous, that is pumped into the blood, and sodium is taken into. Sodium is ultimately gone out into the lumen by diffusion, dotted arrows. Here H+ enters the blood, that is actively neutralized by bicarbonate buffer in the blood. Okay. So that is fifth step. Then sixth step is sodium already covered here. It's diffusing out. Then seventh and final one is the water. Water diffuses out by osmotic drag. So these 7 steps either you explain in paragraphs or put into 7 steps of the flow chart or put into a diagram like this, a line diagram. Ductile cell is the beginning point. On either side, one side, right hand side is the lumen, left hand side is blood or interstitial fluid. Start with the carbon dioxide and H2O, that is 1 and 2 steps with the help of carbonic anhydrous. Then third one is HCO, bicarbonate ion, and H plus bicarbonate ion diffuses out by active transport. That is for step number 4. Step number 5 is H plus is pumped out, sodium is taken in, that sodium is diffused out into the lumen again by number 6. Then if everything goes into lumen by osmotic drag, water also flows by diffusion. That is osmosis. This you need to draw if it is a question related to the pancreatic juice in the segment of an essay question. Is it okay now? With this, in the past 30 minutes, we have completed the introduction to pancreatic juice. That is the alkaline medium, along with the bile that is also alkaline. Both will combinedly release into duodenum. Both are in alkaline nature. The number one function of the alkaline nature of bicarbonate is to neutralize the acidic chem. That you need to mention all the time. Under the functions of bile or functions of pancreatic juice, because it contains bicarbonate in rich quantities, that is 5 times of ECF, the number one function is to neutralize the acidic chem that is coming from the stomach. Once it is neutralized, and we need to maintain alkaline medium. Once alkaline medium is maintained, then only the trypsin can act at the pH of 8.3. That you need to highlight under the functions of. Every student is going to write functions of each enzyme, proteolytic, amylolytic, lipolytic, but some students are only mentioning the role of bicarbonate ion, which is to neutralize the acidic chem coming from the stomach at n intervals. Now, I have seen some students in the previous classes, your seniors. If the question is asked from either gastric juice or pancreatic, let us take the question is pancreatic juice. In the components, they will write both trypsin and pepsin also. They are in the thought process that the examiner will take whatever is correct. No, that is a very wrong sense, attitude, and methodology of presenting. You need to be very much keen on what juice you are dealing with and what is that enzyme present. You can't write both the things. That is a foolishness, and it may carry negative mark also. That is negative. It will create negative sensation in the brain of the examiner, so that you don't give good marks for the next question also. If you do that wrong experiments. We have seen tens and tens of papers for each batch. If you give gastric juice, they will write both trypsin and pepsin. If you give pancreatic juice, they will write trypsin and pepsin. You are writing trypsin, it is correct, but you are writing pepsin also. That means that is a big blunder of your attitude and lack of control over your components. That means, for example, if patient comes to you, you can't write 2 antibiotics and say that whatever it may act on that, it may act. You can't do that. You can't do 2 components which are opponent on the patients or on the exam paper. Be cautious in presenting. You need to present only one. If it is gastric juice, pepsin. If it is pancreatic juice, trypsin. Don't club together. Okay. If that is the situation, I'll give 0. I'll give 0 to that component of the answer script. Because which one I am going to take? Which one are you going to mention? So that it is impossible to give a mark. Likewise, some students are there for every question they are going to write. For example, functions of cerebellum. They write functions of basal ganglia, functions of brainstem, everything they write. Out of all the functions, something will be there related to cerebellum also. That doesn't mean that it is correct in terms of accuracy and relevance. You need to pinpoint your presentation. You can't make it clumsy by presenting all in one shot. That is very, very wrong. Regulation I'll touch a bit to initiate the discussion for tomorrow. Tomorrow will be in detail. Okay, I'm not going into detail. I'll just superficially go through like a broad view. As it is said in the beginning, in the previous class also, regulation means you can't write anything other than STL colon. First, you have to start with STL colon, STL colon, STL colon. Without STL colon, regulation is foolishness, meaningless. Start with STL colon or parasympathetic or vagus nerve endings, cholinergic nerves in the enteric nervous system. They all produce STL colon. This STL colon is going to stimulate acting on SNR cells. That is also important. Writing the STL colon, it is acting, targeting specifically on SNR cell to produce enzymes. That you need to get a complete mark. This is important. If you write everything in a clumsy manner, you don't get a correct mark. You may get a pass mark, but not the correct mark. You will release enzymes because it is acting on STL colon is acting on SNRs. That is important. Therefore, whatever textbook you are following, just go through that in the evening. You be keen and accurate with the presentation. Then cholecystokinin, the second hormone, which will also act on the biliary system, gallbladder, and other components. But I'm not discussing that now. It is also acting on SNR cells. SNR cell means it is going to produce enzymes. Very much keen. It was produced by duodenal and upper jejunal mucosal cells. That is the origin for duodenal. Cholecystokinin, then secretin, the third and most important component. It has many functions. Don't think that it is going to act only on the pancreas. It will act on the liver. It will act on the stomach also. It has some functions related to secretion, some functions related to motility also. Secretin can be directly in 3-mark question. Cholecystokinin can be directly 3-mark question. And this discussion will be revised again under the heading of gastrointestinal hormones or GIT hormones. A topic was given to the one of the assistant process that will be there to discuss all these hormones again. My role is only installation, where it is acting. It is acting on ductal epithelium, not on the SNR cells, not on the SNR cells. Ductal epithelium. So that what it is going to produce? The possibility is bicarbonate and water. This is the possibility. Is it clear? You need to remember these 3 things very keen. STL colon, cholecystokinin, secretin. The first 2 are acting on SNR cells. The third one, which is the most and key important, is acting on ductal cells to produce bicarbonate. Why I am stressing this means, depending on the food and the acidic medium, that is what you are supplementing from stomach to the duodenum, it will behave accordingly. If you supplement more protein to duodenum, then more release of cholecystokinin and STL colon to produce more enzymes from the SNR cells. If the released component is more acid and acidic kind, acidic food is given down to the duodenum, then the secretin is going to stimulate the ductal epithelial cells, not the SNR cells, to produce more bicarbonate. So ultimately it will neutralize the acidic kind. So depending on the situation in the duodenum, we are going to get these hormones accordingly. So this is a summary of the chart. You can see here. This is from Guyton. It's number 1. Let's take the number 1. Number 1 here. On the top left-hand side of the screens, you can see you're interested. Acid from the stomach releases secretion from the wall of the duodenum. So that ultimately you're going to get the cholecystokinin, okay. Then this cholecystokinin come down here. It's called secretion of enzymes. It is an hormone, it is absorbed through blood and conveyed through the pancreas. That is the route. If it is secretin will do the different thing. It causes the production of bicarbonate by acting on the ductal epithelial cells. So they are very much specific, their identities and their functions. And once you clear these two in terms of hormones, then take the neural regulation. That is vagal stimulation release enzymes, because they are going to act on the SNR cells. This acetylcholine is going to act on SNR cells. This is a simple diagram. You can make it into flowchart also. No need to have the anatomical diagram in physiology. So this is a concluding remark of the regulation and how it will be. For example, if you give more HCl to the duodenum, more acidic content. So food is more acidic, which doesn't contain protein and all, contains acid, HCl is given directly. Then you can see the rate of pancreatic secretion. The blue line is for water and bicarbonate. So in response to presence of HCl, more and more water and bicarbonate released when compared to very little enzyme part that is released. Then take the opposite situation and you consume and place only proteins and peptones in the duodenum. Then you can see the reversal. Minimal amount of bicarbonate is released and maximal amount of enzymes in response to peptones. This is a picture from again Guyton. If it is soak, a mixture, it means alkaline content is given to the duodenum. Is it okay? So it looks so easy to remember, to go through and to represent onto the paper. So that it is always good that if you get an essay question from GAT and compared to respiration, excretion and CVS, it is always easy to represent, easy to elaborate, easy to explain, easy to get the mark. It is only a bit logic rather than the complexity of the concept. Okay, with this we have completed the secretory component, starting with saliva we have completed in the regulation, then gastric juice regulation, then pancreatic juice in today's class. Tomorrow pancreatic regulation, then the class followed is regulation of intestinal secretions along with the bile, and we have one class on applied aspects of bile and gallbladder. So that with that component we'll complete the secretory part. Once secretory part is all, we'll move to the motility and motor part of the motor functions of GAT, which include mastication, swallowing, deglutition, that is swallowing, then gastric emptying, intestinal movements at the large intestine, defecation, and abnormalities including vomiting. All these will come under motility. Any questions so far on pancreatic juice? Because it is an easiest component, nothing big will be left on this. To introduce a bit of same kind of concept from the gastric juice, even the secretion of pancreatic juice in a phase-wise manner, like cephalic phase, gastric phase, intestinal phase. The same phases are there, but my question is, out of these three phases, which phase will contribute to the more release, more volume response of the pancreatic juice? If you can recollect, the gastric phase of gastric juice secretion is contributing more, but in pancreatic it is intestinal because the food is actually present, roll number 71 and 46. So intestinal phase of the secretion is contributing for the more volume response. More juice is secreted in that part because that food is actually present in that part. Because in pancreatic secretion, intestinal phase is more important. Cephalic is always 10 to 20% minimum. Okay. With this, we have completed components and functions, a bit of regulation. Detailed regulation will be discussed again to reinforce your concept tomorrow into details that will be discussed tomorrow. We have 10 more minutes to go. Is there any question from your side? Yes, you're correct. 75%. 108. Okay, now we'll take one number from your side. As a number suggested by your CR yesterday. We have called 28 and 82. Now we'll call 128, 128. Are you there in the class? Hello, 128. Yes or no? Roll number 128.
Sir, no, sir.
No. Okay, no problem. Then we'll take a different number again. We'll cut down 50% of your choice of yesterday. We'll take 1 in place of 2 and we'll take 4 in place of 8. So it is roll number 14. Are you there? Roll number 14. Many of them are busy with their domestic activities. They are keeping the class aside. They are doing multitasking. Okay, Lee. Roll number 41.
Yes, sir.
Now my question to you is, what is the important inorganic component present in the pancreatic juice? Because pancreatic juice contains water, organic, inorganic. What is that? What is the important constituent of the category of inorganic components?
Bicarbonate, sir.
Very good. Okay, we'll go to the next possibility. Roll number 141. Are you there in the class?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What is the safety mechanism that is designed by the pancreatic juice so that the trypsin is not at all activated within the pancreas? Yes, roll number 141, you can answer this. What is that safety component that is present to inhibit trypsin? That is one of the major or important constituents of pancreatic juice, which is inhibiting the activity of trypsin. What is that name? It is there in my sentence also. What is that component that inhibits trypsin and it will prevent pancreatitis? I hope we are not following the class. Busy with something.
Trypsin inhibitor.
Trypsin inhibitor. Now, what are the situations and conditions in which it is activated? What are the pathological situations in which it is activated?
Acute pancreatitis.
Okay, you'll get acute pancreatitis. What is the stimulus or situation?
A damage or a blockage.
Very good.
Blockage.
And what's more?
Alcohol.
Alcohol. You're correct. Okay.
Circulatory shock.
You're correct. You need to remember all the time throughout your life: alcohol, blockage, and damage. Okay. So that will help you in practice. Okay?
Yes.
So if somebody comes with pain in the abdomen, acute pain, severe pain, a male alcoholic, means you need to switch on your profile to the acute pancreatitis. Okay. If it is female, fatty lady, after 40s, right hypochondrium pain, that is cholelithiasis. gallstones. Possibilities are also there. The gallstone may also combine the possibility to get pancreatitis. So that all these things we have learned in basic medical sciences, that will be applied with great logic, so that you'll get your diagnostic decisions made easy. So that you need to remember all these components possible. With this, we'll close this today's session. To summarize what was happened today, to streamline the components, we have discussed the pancreas, pancreatic juice, which contains water as a major component, and organic and inorganic we have proteolytic enzymes, lipolytic enzymes, amylolytic enzymes, trypsin inhibitor. Finally, and proteolytic enzymes, and somebody can name the proteolytic enzymes? Proteolytic enzymes. I think everybody. Very good. Trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, and one more.
Carboxypeptidases.
Very good. Then what are the lipolytic enzymes present in the pancreatic juice? Lipolytic.
Nucleases, elastase.
Lipolytic means we have to go with the pancreatic lipase.
Pancreatic lipase, phospholipase.
And then for cholesterol ester hydrolase. Okay. Then of course you can add all nuclease and all. Then amylase means it is only the amylolytic enzyme. Then trypsin inhibitor, you have to give one note on that, and applied aspect also. Then bicarbonate, you make a paragraph how important it is to neutralize the acidic chyme and to maintain acidic medium and to maintain the proteolytic action by trypsinogen and trypsin, so that we can maintain that medium here. So neutralization acidic chyme is important by the bicarbonate. With this, we have completed all the components and the functions of each component. Like for example, if you take touch fluid on the WBC count side, combines and constant in the same way, if you do it, and it will be easy to do rather than taking up the list together. Okay, we'll close this. See you tomorrow. Next class will be on April 1st, I think June 1st, into the respiratory system, because some topics are missed out because of the timetable issues. Teaching.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
సార్ ఒక డౌట్ ఉంది సార్.
చెప్పు.
సార్ ఇందాక అక్యూట్ ప్యాంక్రియాటైటిస్ లో కామన్ డక్ట్ ఉంటుంది కాబట్టి కోలియలిథియాసిస్ లో బ్లాక్ అయ్యే ఛాన్సెస్ ఉంది అన్నాం కదా సార్. కానీ అనటామికల్ గా ప్యాంక్రియాటిక్ డక్ట్ కి సెపరేట్ గా డక్ట్ ఆఫ్ శాంటోరిని ఉంది కదా సార్, అదేమి హెల్ప్ చేయదు సార్ అప్పుడు బ్లాకేజ్ లేకుండా?
కంప్లీట్ గా రెండు కలిసి ఒకటే కామన్ ఓపెనింగ్ ఒకటే కదా ఫైనల్ గా.
కామన్ ఓపెనింగ్ కాకుండా సెపరేట్ డక్ట్ ఉంటుంది సార్, అది డియోడినం నుంచి ప్యాంక్రియాస్ డక్ట్ కి.
ఇస్ ఇట్ ట్రూ? కామన్ ఓపెనింగ్ ఎప్పుడైతే బైల్ స్టోన్ తో బ్లాక్ అయిపోయిందో, దే విల్ బి లాగింగ్ అప్ ఆర్ అక్యుములేషన్ ఆఫ్ ప్యాంక్రియాటిక్ జ్యూస్ ఇన్ ద రెస్పెక్టివ్ డక్ట్, దట్ ఇస్ ప్యాంక్రియాటిక్ డక్ట్. సో దట్ ఎక్కువ సేపు స్టాగ్నేట్ అవడం వల్ల ప్యాంక్రియాటిక్ జ్యూస్ లోది యాక్టివేట్ అయిపోతుంది, ట్రిప్సిన్ యాక్టివేట్ అయిపోతుంది. Whatever it is, if you hold this pancreatic juice for more time in the pancreatic duct by the blockage or by any other possibility, it may cause the activation of trypsinogen to trypsin in the duct itself. Duct is part and parcel of within the pancreatic tissues. It is, I think so. సో దట్ ఇంకొక డక్ట్ ఉన్నా కానీ ఆ డక్ట్ మేజర్ లైన్ కాకపోవచ్చు కదా. I think pancreatic juice will be routinely released by the common duct through ample of water. ఒక చిన్న bypass route ఉండొచ్చేమో కానీ మరి anatomy I don't know to that extent. That is not the major line and major methodology by which pancreatic juice is released.
Got it, sir.
అది మేజర్ లైన్ కాకపోవచ్చు, ఒక ఆల్టర్నేటివ్ లైన్ అయ్యి ఉండొచ్చు, అంతవరకు ఉండొచ్చు. ఓకే, నెక్స్ట్ క్లాస్ విల్ బి ఆన్ వెంటిలేషన్ పర్ఫ్యూషన్ రేషియో, which is an important topic from respiratory system. This can be 5 mark question or part of essay question that we'll deal on 1st June, 9 o'clock.